Hello, everyone. You are listening to Those Other Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm Mallory, and we are changing culture and bringing back traditional values. So today we have a treat. We are back to doing interviews, and we have the founder of 7 Weeks Coffee. You guys have probably seen it everywhere on social media at this point. They were also you guys were at the Students for Life Summit too, right? You guys had a booth there? Yes. So I'm super excited to have the founder here and for us to talk a little bit about having a pro-life business. We're going to talk about having a business in general. We're going to talk about pro-life issues, and then you guys ask some questions that we're going to get to. And we'll talk about coffee just in general as well as a coffee drinker. So let me read you this bio real quick. 3 years ago, at the age of 22, Anton moved to DC to get involved in the political process because he wanted to promote godly values in government. As he began his career in the political arena, two things became obvious about values in Washington. Godly principles are lacking on both sides of the aisle, and many organizations put profits over people. 7 Weeks Coffee was started to reverse this trend and to live out Billy Graham's calling as a believer in the marketplace. As a values-based business, they are putting people before profits by having a transparent mission statement. Donate 10% of every sale to pregnancy care centers across the nation. He is a Christian, he is conservative, and 7 Weeks Coffee unapologetically supports pregnancy care centers across the nation. So you fit right on in with this group of girls. All of us, not all of us, the majority are Christian conservative. And if you're listening and you're not, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you about it. So yeah, I guess let's first talk about who are you? You say you're someone who moved to DC to be involved in politics. Did you always want to be involved in politics, or how did that happen?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, and happy to be here and share a little about some coffee and my story. I moved to DC about 3 years ago. I've always been passionate about politics and the conservative movement, but also the faith aspect of wanting to advance, biblical or just godly principles in government, because I think, as it's clear, culture is definitely on the decline in terms of morality and just what's going on in the world. And I just felt a calling, and I want to be a part of hopefully standing against it or fighting for a little bit of good change. So that's kind of why I moved down here. I got an internship in the area, and I was really gung-ho about fighting for, personally conservative values, Christian values. But yeah, like I said in kind of that little bio there, like you read, just because you're a conservative doesn't mean you have the best intentions. Mm-hmm. And I learned that pretty quickly, because you kind of can see a lot of self-interest on both sides of the aisle. And I definitely got to taste that just kind of being around the whole political arena here in DC.
And really,
yeah, that's kind of my background, how I ended up down here.
Really quick, before you move, I just want to say, we talk about that a lot, how we identify, most of the audience identifies as Christian conservative, because there is a difference between being conservative and being a Christian, because conservative is kind of just used very loosely nowadays. So yeah, we definitely, we understand that.
Yeah, exactly. There is a difference, and I'm happy to talk about it, but yeah, I mean, as people, I think if we, as Christians, our values, those values always come first and foremost. And I'll always put those first and foremost, who I vote for, what I believe in, what I want to represent.
Perfect. Love that. So when you came to DC and you saw how it wasn't really like that, what made you transition from politics? I'm assuming you probably wanted to go run for office, be on the Hill. What made you transition from that to an actual business?
I think it was a few different things. It's definitely a busy life in the political arena. I mean, it's nonstop news cycle. It's nonstop, kind of just the talking point culture. Mm-hmm. And personally, I think it's definitely a lot. It can be very overwhelming. And I've always been very passionate about the pro-life movement. I just never had an outlet really to live that out until 7 Weeks Coffee was born. No pun intended. But that's kind of the transition to something that I was really passionate about, which is the pro-life movement.
And what made you decide to do coffee? I feel like that's kind of random. Most people want to do T-shirts or I don't know, something like that. But why coffee?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I don't know, there's so many coffee companies out there, and I kept getting all these advertisements for, Second Amendment coffee, you have Black Rifle, you have Minutemen coffee, you have all these different brands of coffee. And I was like, wow, it's kind of like a really cool way to tell a story and share a mission. It's a kind of a product people come around, people use, and it's a really good, I don't know, mediator between a cause and sharing that cause with your community. So I had this really deep longing for the pro life movement and wanting to get involved in it. And I love coffee. Like I'm kind of a coffee snob. So personal passion and just a desire to kind of share a mission. And it was funny. I was doing some research and I couldn't find like a single pro life coffee company when I started. And it was like, it totally hit me like a lightning bolt. Like, wow, no one's talking about this. Like there's no like, marketplace or just, company that's around these values that it's not a small segment of the people, like, majority of people are, I think, pro-life, and it's a huge, obviously contentious issue now, but people are very passionate about it. So that's kind of where the idea was born. But it really was focused on, let's just not be a pro-life coffee company. Let's have a very big impact. So that's where the donate 10% of every sale came in. Because it's like, we can stand for values online, writing a bio all day, but like true impact is how you serve and how you lead. And we do that by donating 10% of every sale.
Love that. I absolutely love that. And when it comes to business in general, I think it's great to find things that have not already been done. Nothing against t-shirt companies. This t-shirt is from Living in the Light Co. But there's a lot of t-shirt companies out there. Nothing against, well, honestly, I can't think of anything else that feels oversaturated other than t-shirts. But it's great that you found
it's a very saturated market.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you found coffee. And I think it's something that like also most people like. Now, what made you decide? I think I know why you decided the 7 weeks, but can you tell the audience why you decided 7 weeks as the name?
Oh, absolutely. That's the cool part about it. I mean, it really ties the whole mission together. So I had the idea for a pro-life coffee company. I did not know what to call it. But I called my wife, and with this idea, I'm like, hey, I want to start a pro-life coffee company. And it was something that was like, totally like, I'm going to do this, but I had no idea what to call it. And my wife, she's a nurse, and she's like, oh, when is a baby the size of a coffee bean? Because they call, it my little bean. And that's, I guess, her healthcare background led her to think like that. And I'm like, I don't know. Let me look it up. So I look it up. At 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. And it's at really the same time a mother has her first ultrasound. Between 6 and 8 weeks is usually that first ultrasound. So like, oh, there's the name, 7 weeks coffee. At 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. It's the same time that a heartbeat's clearly detectable. An ultrasound, help us, support ultrasound services at pregnancy care centers with your purchase. So it was like the whole mission and, the motto and the leading with the tide, all really started through the name.
Love that. So first question, personal question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Tell us how you met your wife and all that jazz, if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, no, happy to share. So like I said, I moved down here 3 years ago, and oddly enough, when I was really moving down, I went back home to Cleveland, Ohio, for one more week to literally pack up everything I had back home and to move down to DC because I got my full-time job. So I'm like, okay, I got to go home, pack up, and got 1 week before I start my job. So during that week, I go back. I was with some friends at my church, and that's when I ended up meeting who my current wife now, Krista, is. So we met literally the week I was moving down to DC full time. So it's funny. You never would have thought that would have worked out. But, God definitely had other plans. And it was weird because, right as I moved down, I worked here for a couple of months and we were kind of doing long distance. And then COVID hit. And so I went back home for like, a handful of months. So we were back, able to date, more in person, which is great. We really hit it off. And 2 years later, we got married. And now we're both down here in the DC area. So yeah, that's our little story.
Wow. Oh, that's so cute. We love a good pro-life Christian couple story. So when you told her you wanted to start a business, so she's in the medical field, was she kind of like, because starting a business costs a lot of money. It's big. I'm assuming you had a decent paying job before. So when you told her that, was she like, oh yeah, God told me to, or was she kind of like, oof, how are we going to do this? Like how did that conversation go about?
That's really fun you asked that. So, the 7 weeks coffee, I think my wife was a little taken back, but she definitely believed in me and trusted me. But I had the idea literally 2 weeks after we got married. So we dated,
Oh my
go
goodness.
through engagement. We literally plan a wedding. It's the most stressful time planning a wedding, family, friends, just, all the costs with the wedding. Finally
Yeah.
get through our wedding, like we get settled, and like 2 weeks later, I'm calling her on the way home from work. I'm like, I have this idea. It was literally 2 weeks after. So she makes a joke of it that like, somehow I got bored already with marriage, which is not the case, very happily married. But yeah, it was right after that. I mean, it hit me. So I know God's timing for sure. It was like, okay, you got married. Now, next thing is you guys are going to go off and start this company. So, um, but yeah,
Wow.
she's all very supportive of it, very much now.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Kind of transitioning to the actual business. So coffee, how do you source coffee? Like, how do you find out, like, where would you even start if somebody, wanted to start a coffee business themselves, or like if just they're curious, how do you even start?
I started blind, but I learned quickly, and definitely, God led me to the right people. So when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to need a coffee supplier, obviously, because I don't roast my own coffee or
Right.
anything or have access to that. So it was very much like, seeking out who could be a good supplier. And I was worried because like, what if someone doesn't, want to work with me because I'm trying to start a pro-life coffee company. So the first person I did ask, they turned me down. They said, no, it's too controversial. And then through a mutual friend and kind of some divine appointments, I just stumbled upon a roaster who I didn't know personally. I called him up. He turns out to be a Christian, and
Nice.
I gave him the idea and the mission, and he agreed to work with me. So I work with the roaster, who's one of the best coffee roasters in the country, and I've learned a lot about coffee. And this is where our coffee really is, sets ourselves apart. Is that we're not just pro life coffee; we're really much pro abundant life, and that
Ooh.
really starts with the farmers who grow our coffee. So a lot of coffee is sourced through child labor or slave labor. So if you do not, if there's, coffee that we all could be drinking, it could be from a big box retailer. There's a lot of untraceable coffees out there with very poor farming practices where farmers are very much mistreated. So I ended up partnering with this person who's so passionate about helping farmers, and it's called direct trade coffee. So we source our coffee through direct trade. It means it's the most transparent way to pay farmers. We pay up to 2 to 3 times what fair trade requires. My roaster that I work with personally knows the people who are growing the crops and the washing station managers. He's met with them. He's been there to Ethiopia where our coffee's from. So we're directly benefiting farmers in their business as in selling coffee. So it's a totally different thing than most coffees out there. So it's really cool that we have this pro abundant life mission too as well, and that we like to share.
Wow, I love that. I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, that's starting to, I don't want to say it's becoming trendy because that makes it seem like it's a fad, but I think it's something that should be noted that people are becoming more, they want ethically produced
Mm-hmm.
coffee, ethically made clothes. So that's becoming more, for lack of a better word, popular. And I wanted to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I think also, too, that's important because I always say, and I always tease about like Pure Flicks, if someone's watching and you're a fan of Pure Flicks, no shade to you, but I'm sorry, that stuff is terrible. Like, it's awful. We can't keep promoting businesses. We can't keep promoting movies, TV shows that are terrible. We have to start, when we promote something, especially as Christian conservatives, like, let's have a high standard. And I think you having good tasting coffee as well as like ethically sourced coffee is a high standard. Because, back in the day, I mean, you could slap Christian on something. And I'll be honest, my parents were the number one. If you said Christian, it could be like, I don't know, like a rock. And my parents would be like, oh, Christian, we have to support. And we can't keep doing that as Christians.
Exactly.
We can't keep doing that. So I love that you guys are ethically based.
Totally right. Yeah, Mallory, that's a great point because when I started it, and just, working with my roaster and talking to him, you're totally right. To be like truly like kingdom mindset, it's like as Christians, we can have the biggest hearts, and very, like you said, very sorry products. And people will
Mm-hmm.
try to support us and tons of different businesses because you have a big heart and you have a really good mission. And it's easy almost to come up with a good mission because we all want to give back. We all want to have a big impact, but to really make a difference, we have to provide and have, a superior product and quality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we really strive for. Like, I'm so happy people do buy our coffee for the first time because they want to support the mission. But I'm even equally as happy that they come back and buy it again because they love the product. And that's so important. It's not it's not like people are downgrading what they enjoy most, and they're actually upgrading usually. If you check out our reviews on our coffee, people are like, I was skeptical to switch, but I wanted to give you guys a try. Now I'm subscribing every 2 weeks. And it's cool to see that because we want to provide that high quality product as a Christian company.
Nice. I love that. I really do. Okay, let me go and see really quick. Okay. Some of the questions. There was a question that I thought was really funny that I want to ask.
Okay.
Okay, 2 seconds to pull it up. I should already have it pulled up. Okay, this person said, which coffee blend do you think Jesus would have preferred?
Okay, so he would definitely go with the light roast. And here's why. Because one of the biggest misconceptions is when people ask how they like their coffee and they go, I'd like it strong. And what I ask them is, what does that mean? You want more caffeine? And they're like, yes. And they're always like, well, I'll take the dark roast. And that's false. The light roast has the most caffeine.
Ooh,
and why would you just want that? Because obviously he's up early. And yeah, it's so true. And why would you just want that? Because he's up early. Someone had a very busy schedule. No one had a busier schedule than him. So he would definitely need the more caffeine in his coffee in the morning. So that's why I would say light roast.
That's so funny. Okay, I really wanted to ask that one. Let's see. Oh, 2 other questions were just about ethics anyway. The ethics behind the bean, which you already talked about that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So what type of coffees do you offer? Like, what are the light roast, dark roast?
So we have like a whole, yeah. So we're like expanding rapidly right now. When we started, it was like, can we just sell a few bags of coffee, like medium and dark roast? That's where we started. So we started medium, dark roast. We added espresso roast, and then we added light roast. Then we added decaf. So we have like 5 full, offerings now, with much more to come in the near future in this fall. Through the winter with a bunch of different, varieties and stuff. But right now we have light, medium, dark, espresso, and decaf. So it really hits all the different, flavor profiles and desires. But yeah, like I said, it's interesting. Light roast does have the most caffeine. So when people always say, I want the strongest coffee, you can always ask them, what do you mean by that? Because if you want the least amount of caffeine, you should get a dark roast. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And is that just because it's taken longer to roast, or like, why is that?
You're exactly right. Yeah.
That was just a guess.
Misconception. It's think about like cooking. So like, yeah, you're totally right. You're literally cooking something. So roasting coffee beans is you're taking these they're actually green coffee beans, and you're roasting them over a period of time. So the longer you roast something, the more and more something will almost literally cook out of it. So the caffeine is being, roasted out of it longer. So light roast would obviously have more caffeine because you don't roast it as long.
Wow. Okay. Any other? Are there any other things that you learned in the coffee business that you just like blew your mind away?
Yes. If your coffee doesn't say mold free, there's a good chance it has mold in it or pesticides. Yeah, that's something that's pretty interesting. Most coffees, generic coffees, easily can contain mold. So we proudly advertise our coffee is 100% mold free, pesticide free. I didn't know that. So now then you look at a coffee and it doesn't say mold free. You're probably wondering, well, if you were mold free coffee, you'd probably share that with everyone because that's a pretty big, thing to share. So yeah, I mean, coffee is actually cheaper coffees are, usually dirty, moldy, contain pesticides. They're not really good for you in terms of like what is placed in them and how they're sourced and, managed. But our coffee's not. So you definitely have a good supply with us.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that.
Yeah, you better check your coffee over there because you don't want to be drinking. You can be drinking mold every day and you don't even know.
Well, I'm like, I should just go ahead and buy a bunch for our office because we just use regular coffee pods. But you can get the one from Amazon, put the coffee in there, put it in the Keurig. I might just buy some for the whole office because that is disgusting. Just thinking about that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it's cheap coffee.
Yeah.
We just go to Walmart and just get the Walmart brand, and I know it's cheap.
Oh no. Oh
Wow.
no.
Okay. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my
I need to
goodness, that's
convert you.
crazy.
Open to the coffee world. Yeah, it's night and day difference. I'll tell you. You'll notice the difference in taste and quality.
Wow. Okay. Well, good to know. I'll definitely be making a purchase soon. Um so two questions really about your faith, and then we'll probably wrap it up. The first question is,
Sure.
if you don't mind, can you tell us your testimony, how you became a Christian? Why is your faith so important to you?
I appreciate you asking it. Yeah, I mean, it's the center of my life, and my calling in life, and not just this company, but with everything I do. I grew up in a Christian home. I accepted Christ at a younger age, probably around 10 or 11, and it's always been personal to me through high school and college, and really after college, God really put it on my heart to get involved in not ministry, but what we're doing at Seven Wings Coffee is a ministry in a sense. Like, we're
Yeah.
advancing and promoting, godly principles. And that's always been on my heart to what I want to do in life is to live out my faith in an active way through my work and, now my business. So, from a young age, I grew up with, a Christian faith, and God has definitely pushed me closer and closer to him. And also just, led me to this, and, taking it one step at a time. But to piggyback off that point, one of the reasons why I think Seven Wings Coffee started is because when I was interning, I interned at my church right before I moved to DC, and I got to see a pregnancy center for the first time. It was a very moving moment. Obviously, just working and interning at a church was spiritually, super, deep calling for me to just be in that environment, but also to see a pregnancy center for the first time, because I had no idea what they were, honestly. And I was, completely pro-life, but very, ignorant and unaware of the movement. And I got to see what the pregnancy center would do and how they meet and how they help women, just hear these stories. And it was just so moving in my heart, because you see the need, and you see the love and the care that these centers that are giving women who are usually in just very difficult situations. So God definitely put that on my heart to find a way back into helping them, and that's where I think Seven Wings Coffee is, also that our mission is to support them, and that's where it came from.
Wow, love that. I think it's really good, and it's so important to have businesses like this that are directly going to pregnancy care centers, because you would be so shocked how many people don't know that they exist, and how so I live in Charlotte, and the ones in Charlotte are, because Charlotte is a larger city with, I wouldn't say wealthy people, that's going too far, but a lot more people are willing to give. You would be surprised how pregnancy centers outside of that are barely holding on. I've actually talked to a couple of people who have pregnancy care centers that are just please, someone just give us $10, $15, we need money. So I think it's good to have organizations, businesses that are giving directly to them, because also too, we have to remember, everybody listening, that they don't get money from the government. They rely solely on donations from you, from me, from your neighbor, from your grandparents. That's how they're surviving. So it's really, really good to have businesses that are giving directly to them, because they need it. They really need it. And we all, we talk a lot about community, how important working together, how we're going, the only way we're going to, so if we want to make abortion illegal and unthinkable, right now it's not, we've talked about this, it's not illegal, it's on its way, but it's not fully illegal yet. But at the same time, we also should be working on to make it unthinkable. So a way to make it unthinkable is to support pregnancy resource centers, is to help them, is to come together as a community. So this is great. I really, I love the mission. I learned some stuff in this episode, and I really appreciate you coming on. One last question, and this is a question we ask all of our guests. If every single girl in the world was looking at you right now and needed advice, what advice would you give them?
Every single girl was looking at me?
Yes, girls, specifically every single girl.
I'd probably say, you know, as a Christian and as, someone who's, I want to fight for, this coffee company really fights for women in need through centers is to, just stand against the tidal wave of culture that's just so corrupting and,
Mm-hmm.
it wants the worst of you and just be strong as a woman and if you're a Christian, stay strong, stay close to the Lord. Don't look at your friends, don't look at the people maybe in school or your classes if they're more popular or not. Just look to the Lord because right now there's a war, literally against I think our younger generation who's trying to corrupt, trying
Mm-hmm.
to steal what God designed for us, and we see that in the abortion industry. It's a lie to women. So stay strong, stand against that lie, and be bold to speak out against it. You'll be surprised the influence you can have. Absolutely.
That's great. I actually just thought of one more question while you were talking, but
Oh yeah, please.
it relates to what you said. What you said was great. I'm probably going to clip that because that was really good. My question though is, have you received a lot of backlash on social media? And if you have, how have you combated it? What have you done for that? Because I know a lot of our girls say that they receive backlash or that they're even scared to post
Hmm.
because of backlash. And I just like to ask people,
Hmm.
what are some tips if you've received it?
Yeah, no, that's true for sure. Like, as we've been growing, you get tons of positive support, but then you start to get, the hate and the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it hasn't really phased me because, the whole mission is what you got to focus on. And as Christians, as, my business is whatever you're doing personally, well, no matter what, we're called to in life, we have to focus on the mission, right? We're responsible to
Mm-hmm.
live that out well. So, with any messages of hate or vulgarity or whatever it is, all I do is delete the comments, move past it, don't look into it. I think one of the things I learned in life at an early age has been helpful is take advice and take influence from people that that who should speak into your life. Not everyone should speak into your life. Not everyone should have
Facts.
an opinion into your life or to your beliefs and stuff. So I don't listen to what everyone says to me because if you do that, you'd go crazy. But listen to the voices that really matter, and you can discern who those are in your life. For me, it's obviously my wife, it's people in my church, people in my community that I trust. But outside of that, yeah, you have to put up your walls against those attacks, and just look forward. Don't look at them.
Thank you. That was great advice. Thank you so much for coming on, Anton. I really, really appreciated this. I learned so much, like I said earlier, and I'm excited to have my 7 weeks coffee. I know everybody listening is probably on the website right now, typing in their order. So yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe. However you're listening to it, please correspond. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. It helps us move up in the algorithm, and other girls can find the podcast and they can learn more and they can feel less alone. I think that's it. Make sure. Oh, can you tell us the website and social media, all that stuff that you have?
Sure, yeah. It's just all
For the coffee.
7weekscoffee.com. Our 7weekscoffee.com to get to the website, 7weeks coffee on social to follow. Yeah, come check us out. Read through the site. It shares exactly how much you donated. We've already raised over $18,000 since we started for Center. So when you
Wow.
purchase, you really get to support life across the country. So we don't ask for donations. We say if you're drinking coffee already, come drink it through us, and you'll have a big impact in supporting life. So yeah, 7weekscoffee.com. Check it out.
Love it. Great. All right, you guys. Bye.